Stock persons who are responsible for the care of livestock have a moral obligation to ensure the welfare of the animals in their care. Part of this obligation is to make certain animals do not experience unnecessary pain and suffering, even in death. Therefore, when disease or injury conditions arise that diminishes the quality of life or creates pain and suffering that cannot be effectively or economically relieved, euthanasia is indicated. Euthanasia is derived from the Greek for good death and is accomplished when death results in a minimum of pain, fear, and distress to the animal. This is achieved by utilizing techniques that induce an immediate loss of consciousness, followed by, or in conjunction with, cardiac and respiratory arrest that ultimately results in loss of brain function. For persons performing euthanasia, a certain degree of technical proficiency, knowledge, and appropriate equipment are required. Individuals are morally, ethically, and legally responsible for the welfare of the animals in their care. Although the financial implications are part of the decision process, an animal's welfare must never be compromised for financial reasons. Simply leaving an animal that is suffering to die of natural causes is unacceptable. Furthermore, it is not acceptable to prolong an animal's misery by delaying euthanasia for reasons of convenience. It is important that when euthanasia is indicated, it be conducted in a timely manner. Captive bolt tools. Stunning of slaughter animals has taken place since early in the 11th century. The first requirement for stunning, dating back to 1336, required that all animals should be struck before bleeding. However, due to concern for injury from animal convulsions, this technique was quickly replaced by driving a spike into the brain. Once firearms became reliable and commonplace, they became the primary method of stunning of livestock for slaughter. However, firearms ran the risk of contaminating the meat product and had an inherent danger to workers. These two technologies were combined to produce the early captive bolt tools. With only minor modifications from the original designs, captive tools are still used throughout the world for stunning livestock for slaughter. Traditionally, captive bolt tools have been used for the stunning of animals at slaughter. Until 2007, manufacturers of captive bolt tools designed and marketed the tools specifically to meat processing plants for stunning at slaughter. Today, captive bolt tool manufacturers have focused new technology development on designing tools for single-step on-farm euthanasia. These devices are designed to cause sufficient destruction of the brain through physical and concussive damage to be considered a one-step method. The PAS penetrating captive bolt consists of a steel bolt with a flange and a piston at one end, which is housed in a barrel. The bolt is retained within the barrel by a series of cushions that absorb the excess energy of the bolt and keep it within the barrel. When fired, the expansion of gases from the cartridge of gunpowder propels the piston forwards and forces the bolt out of the muzzle of the barrel. The bolt is then retracted back into the barrel, either automatically or manually. To be effective, the bolt must have sufficient velocity for the weight class and animal type it is being used on. Bolt velocity is dependent on grain strength, or PSI, maintenance, repair, and storage. Cartridges vary in strength and are classified by the amount of propellant they contain. This is measured in grains. The higher the amount of grains, the larger the animal for which they are intended. The recommended cartridge size is based on the class and size of the animal that is being euthanized. This chart shows the recommended cartridge for each of animal classes. There are no welfare concerns if you choose to use a cartridge stronger than recommended, but you should never use a cartridge that is lower than what is recommended. Application. Proper preparation for euthanasia will help ensure that the process is as effective, safe, and stress-free as possible for both the handler and the animal. Being properly prepared includes having the proper training, making sure you have the appropriate equipment, a means for restraint of the animal when necessary, utilizing low-stress handling of the animal during the process, and implementing safety procedures for both people and animals in the immediate area. Animals that are upright and mobile are more difficult to safely captive bolt without restraint. Large animals, such as cattle that are mobile, will have to be put in some type of restrainer such as a squeeze chute. Attempting to bolt an upright mobile steer or cow is extremely dangerous and should never be attempted. Pigs can be restrained with a sortboard or a snare. If a snare is utilized, ensure that it is not put on the pig until the tool is loaded and ready to fire. It is best if using a snare that 2 people be involved, one to snare the pig and one to apply the tool. Sheep can be restrained with a chute, with a halter, or with a board up against a wall similar to a hog board. If the animal is located in a pen with other animals, it is acceptable to move them out of the pen if they are mobile and able to move on their own. If the animal is non-ambulatory or unable to move without causing further pain or distress, the other animals in the pen may need to be moved out of the pen if the safeties of the animals or handler are in question. A non-ambulatory pig or sheep can be loaded into a sled-type device for movement also. All handling during euthanasia should be minimal and as non-stressful for the animal as possible. At no point should a non-ambulatory or injured animal be dragged or forced to walk. Euthanasia must occur where the animal is currently located. As stated previously, accurate placement is critical to the effectiveness of the captive bolt tool. For cattle, the appropriate location is the center to 1 inch above the center of an X drawn from the outer edge of the pole down to the inside corner of the eye. Dairy cows can have the tool applied from the center to 2 inches above the center of an X. For market weight hogs, the appropriate placement is approximately 1 inch above the eyebrow of the pig or in the center of an imaginary X drawn from the ear to the opposite eye. For mature sows and boars, the tool should be placed 1.5 to 2 inches above the eyebrow or in the center of an imaginary X drawn from the ear to the opposite eye. For market sheep, the tool can be placed on top of the head, the front of the head right above the eyes, or the back of the pole. Sheep have great variance in their skull shapes based on breed. Now we are ready to apply the tool. Personal safety is paramount when using a captive bolt tool. Only trained handlers should use this method and must be familiar with the tool's features and directions for use. The handler should wear both protective eye and ear gear. The tool must not be cocked until the handler is ready to fire, and the safety must be set until the handler is ready to discharge it. The discharge end of the captive bolt must be pointed toward the ground at all times. Once the animal is safely restrained or contained, the handler should approach the animal in a non-threatening manner. Depending on the position of the animal, this can be from the back or from the side of the animal. It is advised not to approach the animal from directly in front unless it is the only way possible. Take off the safety and place the tool firmly and flush against the animal's head. Pull the trigger as soon as the tool is properly placed. Immediately remove the tool and step back from the animal. The animal may have violent kicking immediately following being bolted. Application on market steer. Application on mature hogs. Application on sheep. If the first bolting was not effective or questionable, a second bolting should be immediately applied. If the first bolting was accurately placed, the second bolting should be placed approximately 1 inch above and slightly to the side of the first bolting. If the first bolting was not accurately placed, the second bolting should be applied in the appropriate part of the head as described before. Confirming insensibility and death. Death is not immediate, but a process that can take in excess of 10 minutes to be completed. First, the animal is rendered insensible. Then, the body begins to die as the brain stops, the lungs stop breathing, the heart quits beating, and the blood quits circulating. Upon loss of consciousness, reflex motor activity or muscle spasms are likely to occur. This is a normal part of the death process and should not be perceived as the animal being in pain or distress. Kicking after application of captive bolt tool is normal. Confirmation of the onset of the death process or insensibility should occur within the first 30 seconds following euthanasia application. The primary indicators for insensibility include lack of corneal reflex, lack of rhythmic breathing, and loss of deliberate movement. Corneal reflex is when an animal responds to tapping the eye, brushing of the eyelashes, or to a menace response such as waving a hand in front of the eye. Twitching should not be mistaken for a natural eye blink. Rhythmic breathing is a normal repeated inhalation and exhalation of air. This can be detected by watching the rib area of the animal. Deliberate movement is not the kicking or thrashing that can occur following application of euthanasia method. If the animal is found to be not insensible or is showing any signs of returning to sensibility, the method must be applied again or a secondary method utilized. At least 3 of the following signs of death must be confirmed to verify an animal is dead. Signs of death include absence of rhythmic breathing, lack of corneal reflex, dilation of pupils, and absence of rhythmic heartbeat. The heartbeat may continue for an extensive period of time, even with the absence of all other signs of insensibility. As long as the animal does not exhibit any of the signs presented in the list, the welfare of the animal is not in jeopardy. Signs that an animal is still alive include the animal attempts to right itself, it vocalizes after application, it has controlled eye movement or natural blinking or constricted pupils. There is an extended period of aggressive movement or flopping. There may continue to be the occasional involuntary spasm following this time period, but not to the degree as the initial onset. Or the animal responds to painful stimuli such as pinching the nose. If there is any uncertainty over whether an animal is dead or not, the procedure should be repeated or a second method applied. This should occur within 30 seconds of the first attempt. No animal should be moved or denatured in a plant setting until death is confirmed.
For more information, please visit our website at bunzlpd.com or give us a call at 1-800-456-5624.